YouTube, I hope everyone is having a great day. Today I am going to be doing an experiment with this bag right here. This is a Dooney Burke hobo bag and I'm going to try dyeing it today. This bag, I'm going to bring it a little bit closer. You can see the color here. It's filming on my camera pretty true to life. So it is red. I love red bags, although I'm still searching for my perfect red bag, but I'm super picky about my reds and I like my reds to be deep and blue based and just really, really, truly red. I don't like reds that have any hint of orange to them, and this bag leans just a tad too orange for me. So I barely ever use it. I was going to sell it, but then, you know, before I sell my bags, I always give them like one last chance. I give it a go, and I realized how much I actually really love the style of this bag. It is probably the most comfortable hobo bag that I have. It fits everything, all of my daily essentials, and I really, really enjoy using it. I just don't love the color. So I'm going to try dyeing it, see if I can get it to a color that I do like better than this. My aim is to get this to be a wine, like a purple based burgundy. So we'll see. I have my supplies here. I've changed into like an old t-shirt. I've pulled my hair back. I have gloves. These are cheap Walmart disposable like food gloves. I also have a pack of sponges. I have acetone, which is supposed to help deglaze the bag. I have a set of really, really cheap paintbrushes to get into the small details of the bag. And then the dye itself, I have this Fibings, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but this is a dye prep, which is supposed to help prepare. It's supposed to clean the leather, and help prepare it to actually take the dye. I have the dye itself is the same brand, the Fibings leather dye. I bought it in purple because I read on their website that red and purple is supposed to make wine, so hopefully that's what happens. And then I have this also from the same brand. It's called Restylane, and this is supposed to be a finish for the bag after you're done dyeing it. It's supposed to make it water resistant and I think lock in the dye. So we'll see what happens. I have all the newspaper laid out. I have the bag, and the first step is I'm going to try and, sorry, I think this is really horrible filming, but I'm going to try and deglaze it. This bag actually does not really have a glaze on it that I can tell of, but I suspect it has some sort of protective coating on it because it is fairly water resistant. I've gotten it, like I've been in the rain with it and it's been fine. I haven't gotten like rain marks or water stains on it, so I suspect it has some sort of coating on it. So I'm going to try and deglaze it with the acetone. There are products that are actual deglazers out there, and I thought about buying it, but I didn't because a lot of my research showed that acetone does the same thing. I am a little bit wary about that. I know acetone is pretty strong, so I purposely bought nail polish remover that was not 100% acetone. And I also have this sponge and I have wet it to hopefully dilute some of the strength of the acetone. My goal is really just to take off any sort of finish on it, but I don't want to be ruining the leather or ruining the bag or necessarily even taking away the color, since I'm hoping this red will mix with the purple to make this wine color. So here we go. I think these are really awful angles and I do apologize for that. But I'm just gonna take this here and I'm just going to get it onto the sponge. I am also purposely using the soft side of the sponge for this because, again, I don't want to prematurely ruin anything. Also, when I use the dye prep, I'll be using the scrubby side of it. So I'm just gonna go ahead with the strap here and take some of this off. Hopefully that's what it's doing. up the bag. The next step is the dye prep. So I have a second sponge here. I'm going to use the scrubby side, and I have the dye prep, so I'm just going to saturate the sponge with the dye prep and then scrub the bag with it. Ooh, oh my gosh, okay. That didn't quite go the way I thought it would. That's why we have newspaper. But hopefully, this is soaking all into the sponge here. Okay, now let's see, experiments. Clearly my first time trying this. Okay, so I'll just take this. And this wet. And what I'm actually going to do is apply the dye to the strap first before I put the dye prep on the bag, because I am remembering now that it was recommended to apply the dye when it was still wet with the dye prep. So here is the dye. It comes with this little wool felt applicator. Okay, so I'm dipping it in here. It's very saturated. That's what that looks like. And I'm just gonna apply the dye, so... Wow, that's dark. I don't know if you can see this here. So that's what that looks like. That red strap looks like that now. So that's what this looks like. After the first coat of dye, I'm going to let that dry overnight. We'll see what it looks like tomorrow and do another coat. So this is what it looks like after one layer of dye. It's very bronzy, but hopefully another coat will help take that away. Hey guys, quick update here. So this morning, what happened was I applied a second coat of dye, and almost immediately it started drying this really bronzy, olive green, metallic shade. Not pretty, totally not what I was going for. So I looked up, I Googled, you know, why is my purple dye turning bronze? And I found a message forum that basically said that when it turns bronze or metallic, it's an indication that your leather is oversaturated with dye. So it was pretty bronzy green this morning, and then I put more dye on it, and that certainly oversaturated it. So what I've been doing now is trying to get some of that dye off. And so what I've been doing is I've been taking my sponges and soaking them in the nail polish remover with a little bit of water and just, you know, going over the bag repeatedly. I do think it's helping, so this is what it looks like now. So there it is. It's still bronzy. You can see, you know, it still has that like green in it. And so it's not there yet, but it is so much better than it was this morning. So I'm going to keep doing that throughout the day. I need to get more supplies. You can see here, one of those sponges is completely purple. So I'm gonna go out and buy more sponges. I'm gonna buy more nail polish remover. I think I'm gonna go for the 100% acetone this time. I'm also going to get some rubbing alcohol because I've heard you're actually supposed to try and remove some of the dye with rubbing alcohol. I've been using the acetone just because I have it and I assume that's stronger. And it doesn't actually, like I feel the bag, it doesn't actually seem to be so far harming the leather. The leather feels the same as it did before, and while I had started saying that I didn't want to strip the bag of the color, now I'm at the point that I do want to strip the bag of some of this dye that I've clearly, you know, just put way, way, way too much on. So that is going to be my project for the day, and hopefully by tomorrow this is in much better shape. Hi YouTube! So continuing on my quest to dye this bag. So basically, over Labor Day weekend, I was at my parents' house. I spent all weekend essentially trying to remove the dye. So this is what it looks like now. So there is the bag. So a lot better than what it used to look like, but still not quite there. So what I did is I went back, did some more research. A lot of people who have dyed their bags had used a combination of the fibings, I guess, and then also this Terrago stuff. Now the difference is that the fibing stuff is considered a penetrating dye, so that means it actually goes into the leather. This Terrago self-shine stuff is apparently not a penetrating dye. My understanding is that it kind of sits on top of the leather, almost I guess like a paint, but a lot of people who had dyed their bags that I had seen on YouTube used the fibings penetrating dye and then used this Terrago stuff like almost like a top coat, I guess. So that is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to do another round of rubbing alcohol / acetone to try and further remove the dye, and then I'm going to try and put some of this on top and we'll see how it goes. So this is what the bag looks like now. I did 2 coats of the Terrago Self Shine dye, and it is showing up a lot blotchier on camera than it does look in real life, but I'm satisfied with it. So for the last step, I'm going to be kind of sealing it all with this Restylane stuff. I had read online that this can be pretty shiny, which I don't want, so I'm going to try and cut it with water, which I had read helps take out some of the shine. So that is going to be my next step. I'm going to use this soft-sided scrubby sponge to just put it all on, and then I will be done with this project. Okay, so this right here is the final product. So I'll bring it up close. And I will insert photos of what it looked like before. So it was red, and now it is this deep, dark purple eggplant, I guess, color. I'm actually really pleased with how it turned out. I definitely learned a lot. I learned that I am very prone to overdoing things. So from the get-go, I put way too much of the purple dye on, and a lot of this process was trying to remove that dye. The Terrago Self Shine stuff, I think, really helped bring it to the color I was hoping for it to be. That stuff ended up actually being slightly on the redder pinkish side, and so when I was putting that stuff on initially, I thought, oh, I really messed up, it's too pink red. But really, I think it helped bring the purple down from that. Really, it was like such a deep, dark, deep purple. It still had a bit of that metallic twinge, and I think it really helped calm that all down and really get it to the color I was ultimately hoping for it to be. Also, when I put that, what was it, the Restylane, that top coat finisher stuff on, again, I did dilute it because I didn't want it to be overly shiny, which I don't think it is. I can kind of feel it does have, it's not sticky per se, but it has kind of more of a, like a coating, I guess, than it did before. But when I was putting that on too, I had too much on it. It was very liquidy when I initially put it on. So again, part of that process was trying to kind of soak it up and dilute it some more with the water. The other thing is the hardware, which I still need to work on. I'm seeing there's still some dye on here. The hardware got dye on it. I had read online that it comes off easily with rubbing alcohol, which it does, but what I had not really accounted for was, I don't know if you can really see it, but this part here and here, it's not smooth. It is textured. There's like little bumps. So what happened is the dye pooled in there, and it was hard to remove it all with the rubbing alcohol. And you can see there is actually some dye still in there. I didn't do a very good job clearly because there's still dye here. So I'll need to go over that again. It's a small thing. I think I did better, a little bit better on this side. But again, you can actually see, yeah, there is still dye in there. So I'll probably go over that again. But in retrospect, had I thought of that, I probably would have covered that with painter's tape. On the inside, there is still actually painter's tape in here. But the inside I had covered with painter's tape to avoid getting it on the lining. So you can see that. I'll take it off now. You know, it did an okay job, but clearly not perfect. There is some dye on the lining still. It was harder than I really expected to line the inside of this with painter's tape because it's not a wall, it's not a flat solid surface, so I was dealing with, you know, curves and flipping the bag in and out. So yeah, I have some dye in there. So that was a little bit difficult. I think also, though, to be fair, I wasn't very careful when I was dyeing the inside. I could have been a lot more careful. I could have used the paintbrushes, whatever. I wasn't, so that is on me. And then I did not dye the inner pocket here. So actually, you can see this is the shade that it was to begin with. So I didn't dye that. And then the other thing that, in retrospect, had I thought of it, I would have done something about was this D-clip thing, which I also have to get this hardware and take the dye off of that with rubbing alcohol. But what happened is I got dye on this strap too. I did not cover this with painter's tape. Honestly, I didn't even think about it. And what kept happening was when I was dyeing it, this thing would fall out this side hole here and it would flop around and get on it. Otherwise, I'm actually really happy with the color. I'm really very pleased with how it turned out. It is the color I was going for. It's slightly more purple than what I was going for. I was aiming a little bit more wine burgundy, but I really actually like it. I think it's a great fall color. I like it much better than the red. The red was just too orangey for me, so my hunt for the perfect red bag continues on. But yeah, I think my main takeaways next time if I ever decide to dye a bag again, to start small, use much less dye. You can always build it up, but it's really hard to take it off. That took me days. It took a really long time to do that. And then just with everything, I think the top finishing coat, I put too much on. I just apparently have a very heavy hand, and I don't seem to understand the meaning of too much or enough, apparently. So those are my big takeaways. Consider maybe covering some of the hardware with painter's tape, particularly if it is hardware that is textured. It may be harder to get off. Otherwise, I mean, on the smooth parts, the dye was very easy to come off. It was very easy with the rubbing alcohol. This is gold tone hardware. It did not affect the finish at all. I don't know how rubbing alcohol would react if you had like a black hardware or some sort of coated hardware or like iridescent. I don't know. So I guess that's something to keep in mind if you are concerned about your hardware finish. I would try to cover that up. And then if you have anything on the inside, if you're getting any sort of lining and that is a concern, to try and cover that up as much as possible as well. If you have any questions about any of this, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. This was a interesting project, but I am happy enough that if there was a reason to, I would consider dyeing a bag again. I think I have some new life out of this. I'm looking forward to using this. So anyway, yes, please feel free to leave any questions or comments down below. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great day, everyone.